This is the Living in Clarity podcast. I'm Coach Ratner. This is Lori Palatnik. And today we're going to talk about the 3 ways to respect your partner. Lori, respect's a big deal. I know because we put a podcast out recently on respect and it did unbelievable. Why is respect so important?
Well, listen, I have to tell you, everybody wants to be respected. So what does it mean to be respected? It means a person sees you for who you are and looks up and admires certain qualities that you have. So I think that deep down, if you really, what happens is that we forget what their good qualities are, and we forget why we married the person, and we forget why I decided to work for that person or to go into partnership with this person in a business, because life happens.
Yeah.
Life happens, and it's like you think somebody's so great, but they squeezed the toothpaste wrong, or they were late for the meeting, or fill in the blank, and suddenly we forget to focus in on why we look up to that person.
Right. It's funny. I was thinking today on the way here about disrespect, that if someone doesn't feel respected, then they feel disrespected, which is not always true. It just means they didn't get respected. But then people get angry and in some of the poor communities, sometimes people say, he disrespected me, and they bring guns and they start shooting because I was dissed. I was disrespected. And they could have confused that just with not being respected. So in a relationship, we're talking about marriage or in a partnership, there are 3 different ways that you can respect your partner. And we're going to talk about them. And the first one is praising someone in public. Do you like to be praised in public?
We talk about the love languages.
Yes.
There's 5 love languages. So my love language is words of affirmation.
Okay, that's not mine.
Words. So which one's yours?
Mine's physical touch and the work when people do things for me.
Oh, when they do acts of service.
Acts of service. But for me, it's so funny because mine's specific. Anyone cleans my kitchen, I love them. I just love people cleaning the kitchen.
So
I'm like
your housekeeper.
I do love my housekeeper. Actually, I do. She's great. Thank God I have a great one because it's hard to find a really good one.
It's very hard.
Very hard.
Yeah.
He makes me happy. I've had many housekeepers that have not made me happy, and
Yes.
I keep them because half the battle is just them showing up.
Yeah.
Right. As they show up and they
Yeah.
clean marginally, fine. I'll
Yeah.
keep them. But this one makes me happy. It makes me happy for her to be there.
Yeah.
Yes. If you clean my kitchen, my daughter cleans my kitchen at night, I'm like, oh my gosh, what an angel. My wife cleans my kitchen. I'm like, can we get married again? It makes me feel it. And also physical touch for me is definitely one.
Yeah. My husband's is physical touch. Mine's words of affirmation.
Affirmation.
So I think there's a difference between the love language that you speak and the love language that they hear. Like, you have to speak their language. That's the whole thing people don't understand. So like, I'm thinking, like, I have one daughter, and I asked her, she lives in another country. We live in Israel. She lives in America. And I asked her, what's your love language? 'Cause I think it'd be very interesting to find out from people, because when we talk about being respected, it's like you want to feel loved. You want to feel people see you for who you are. And there's a direct connection to respect as well. Because again, you're focusing in on their good qualities and what it is to admire about them. So she said quality time. Her love language is quality time. That means I realized, like, okay, even though I'm on Amazon, I'm sending her gifts, I gotta show up.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
gotta show up. I believe that most of life is showing up.
Oh, for sure.
Most
It's
of
half
life
the
is
battle.
showing up. Most of life is showing up, and I've learned this in many ways. But so you see that you have to speak their language. So mine is words of affirmation. So even though when my husband he takes care of something. I love acts of service too,
Yeah.
because that was really my father's love language. My father, he didn't really understand what other people's languages were, but he expressed love by acts of service, always doing something. So when my husband takes care of something or does something, and I didn't even know, or he didn't tell me, or I wake up and the dishes were done.
Yes, yeah.
So I also feel loved. But when my husband says, Lori, that talk was a bullseye.
Oh, yeah.
Really, I'm just like, when because my husband, as you know, and I think that he's going to join us.
Yes, he's going to join us.
My husband is a very great man, and he measures his words. He doesn't just like blah, 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 blah. So there are some people, oh, you're great. Blah, blah, blah. My husband measures his words. What he says, he means. So when he says, that was great, you can take that to the bank. And so that is my love language. So you see that one of the ways that people mess up in terms of respect is they use their words incorrectly. You should never say anything, especially in public, about your spouse or your partner or your significant other that you would have to qualify later and explain, "I was only joking."
Oh gosh,
But
no.
I was only joking.
Yes, I mean, I
You
agree
when
with
you
you.
say something that and I do wanna say, especially a woman saying it about a man, that is that is that does not reflect well on him, but I was only joking, and sometimes people use that, like, like, and they do that with their friends. Don't do that with your partner.
No,
Do not do that.
it's too sensitive.
It's really I don't know if you've seen in our marriage, my husband and myself, like, I really try to be very careful with that. Of course, like, there's a certain amount of banter and the things that you do and joking, but in front of people and not in front of people, you should be very careful the words that you use.
Yeah. Back to acts of service. It was funny because I was telling my kids recently, I go, "Do you know, I'm very creative in the morning and I like to write." And I said, when I wake up in the morning and the kitchen's dirty, I said, I have to clean it because I can't work if the kitchen's dirty. I say, but if I come in the morning and the kitchen's clean, I don't have to clean it. I get to write books, classes, videos, what I'm doing. And the more likely we get to go on trips. I said, because I get asked to speak somewhere, and I
Yeah.
get which I'm going to Palm Beach Gardens now for Rosh Hashanah. I was yes, it's very exciting. We just confirmed last night. Anyway,
Who's going?
everybody,
Oh, everybody's going.
everybody's going.
Oh, that's big.
Well, I told them I can't go unless my whole family comes. They says we'll pay for all the tickets.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I'm very excited.
Everybody say hi.
I will.
I
So
understood you're going with everybody.
no, I wasn't gonna go.
Plan A was like that you
No,
were gonna go
plan A
with
was not
everybody.
gonna happen. I was not gonna go. I
I
was
agree.
not gonna.
You should be together.
Right. So
Wow.
yes, it's very exciting. So I asked my daughter. She heard my wife and I talking about.
That's a lot of tickets.
I know, it's amazing. I'm so excited. So, my daughter heard my wife and I talking about love languages, and she's 15. She goes, "I don't know what my love language is." I go, "You're 15 years old. You don't have any idea what your love. Do you at 15 years old have any idea what your love language is?"
You know what? I didn't understand the love languages back then. Back then, you're just like a crazy teenager.
Right.
But I think it depends on the teenager. But I think if it's explained in a thoughtful way and not love as in like like puppy love or boyfriend girlfriend love, but just like what is it if you go through the five love languages that really that fills your heart.
Right.
That when somebody does this, like I like all the things, like was acts of service, great. Like gifts, great. Okay,
Yes, yeah.
but the one that really
That's my
makes
least.
my heart sing when I think about what is the one if I could only choose one, I it definitely is words of affirmation.
Yeah. So let's get back to praising in public. I know as a man that when my wife's talking about me to a public or Shabbat table, and she says, "Oh yeah, my husband gives a really great class in that," and like it brings like, and it's like not even that big a praise. It just brings like joy into my heart when my wife praises me in public. And now, thank God, my wife doesn't disrespect me in public. But like I've seen other couples when the wife just tears the husband down in public. I'm like,
It's so
it
painful.
creates contempt.
It's so
It
painful.
destroys a relationship,
And
and
even if he's joking or he's laughing or she's laughing, it's not it's because it's in public, you have to react in a
yeah,
certain way. I think it is chipping away at the fragile Ming vase called our
I
marriages.
know. Now what
And
about
enough chips will cause a crack, and enough cracks will cause a break.
right, what about women who say, I have nothing to respect my husband for? What do you say to women who don't like their husbands, not doing anything and they don't respect them, which is obviously a major issue in a marriage? What do you say to a woman like that?
Treat him like a man you respect, and he will become a man that you respect.
Right, so you need to find the little things that he does. Like, for example, I always use this example. Imagine you're cooking for a big dinner or Shabbat meal or something, and your husband doesn't lift a finger, sitting on the couch reading the newspaper. And you say to them, "Honey, I'm so happy that you stay out of the kitchen because it allows me to make the dinner. Thank you so much." He didn't do anything, but it shows him that you're giving me a compliment. He feels good about the compliment. He goes, "Oh, you know what? Maybe now I'll help her put the dishes out or something." And he does something small like that. Doesn't do the silverware, the plate.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, bees are attracted to honey.
Yes.
So definitely praise, like, my friend Adrian Gold says, if we would only treat our spouses like we treat our children, we would have better marriages. So, for example, that with kids, it's a classic thing is that when you have to catch them doing something right,
Yes.
and when they're doing so, when do we usually give attention? and look at our kids and be enthusiastic when they're doing something wrong.
Yes.
Okay, they're doing something wrong. What are you doing? I told you to, you have to clean your so that they're getting a lot of attention, and they'll take that attention
But it's the wrong
as
kind.
opposed to no
Of
attention.
course.
So what I was taught by somebody, her name is Sarah Chana Radcliffe.
Yeah.
She's amazing, like psychologist, as she lives in Toronto. She said that the time that when they're doing something right, so usually when they're like playing nicely, so you like yay, like they're playing nicely.
Yes.
No, that's the time to go over, look at them, praise them, raise your voice. Look at you guys, like it's so beautiful. Like I just love you so much. Like you're playing with such cooperation, and you
Yeah.
label it like, and you give them okay. When they're doing something wrong, that's when you lower your voice. You don't raise your voice, you lower your voice. You don't even look at them. You get very few words. They get very little attention for when they're doing something wrong. So let's bring this to our partner. So when our partner does something right,
It's an unbelievable concept, by the way. So I think we should delve more into this, but go ahead.
okay, so when your partner is doing something right, that's when you're like, "Can I tell you again how much it meant to me that, my husband," I'm gonna tell you the other, and I didn't say anything to my husband because I forgot. My husband, I was going to sleep earlier, and I had a long day, and he had gone, and he knew that, and he had gone up into our room and turned on the air conditioning because it's very hot in his room
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now. Turned on the air conditioning because we don't have central air. We
yeah.
have like these like
And each
little
room has
things.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So he turned it on ahead of time
yes.
for me. He wasn't going to sleep for a long time after that.
Yeah.
He had turned it on ahead of time so that when I went up to the room, instead of turning it on and waiting for it to cool down, it was already cool. Now I was like, that was so nice. I didn't say anything, like because I went
Oh,
to sleep.
yeah.
Okay, so what I should have done is like, said something at the time, or now I'm remembering. I just want to tell you, like, I really appreciate that. You were so thoughtful. He's thinking ahead. He was so thoughtful before I even that he would do such a thing. So when you catch somebody or your spouse, when they do the right thing, that's when you look at them. That's when you give them a lot of attention.
Tension.
That's when you raise your voice. But when they don't, when it's a negative thing, either you let it go because you can't you can't sweat the small stuff because it really is only small stuff. And that's where we go to, my husband has this thing called the 24-hour rule. My husband, I didn't know until years and years into our marriage that my husband had something called the 24-hour rule. And you know the rule.
Yes.
So the 24-hour rule, for those of you who don't know, is when I do something, when I've done something in our marriage that upsets him, if I do something that upsets him, which probably has happened at least 2 or 3 times. So when I do something in our marriage that upsets him, he has a rule, and again, I didn't know this. He waits 24 hours before bringing it up. 24 hours before bringing it up. So why does he have that rule? He has that rule because 24 hours later, 9 times out of 10, he can't even remember why he was upset. So if it was so important and so unbelievable that 24 hours later, it doesn't even bother him, he can't even remember it. Forget about it, doesn't bother me. He doesn't even remember it. Then maybe then it's like, wasn't worth it. But there are the 1 times out of 10, the 1 time out of 10 that now we really need to talk about it. But now I'm not so upset.
Right.
So you could talk about it in a way that I'm not so angry. I've slept on it. Okay. And, like this rule of like, never go to bed angry in marriage is a terrible rule. Okay. Like, please ignore that because you should not stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning battling something out because we have a rule. We can't go to bed angry because sometimes you do need to sleep on it.
There's this idea that I write about also is that you can't negotiate with someone when they're emotional. So when you're mad at your spouse or your child, just for instance, and you need to wait some time before because a child, they don't want to, they don't want to do things wrong. They want attention. You have to wait a few hours, at least for a child and for a spouse, at least a day, in order for your emotions to calm down, so you can now talk about it like regular adults.
No, it's actually one of the laws of raising children in Judaism, that you're not allowed to punish your child when you're angry.
Yes, you
You're
can.
not allowed to give a consequence when you're angry. You could pretend you're angry.
Yeah.
You have to wait till you come to why is that one of the guidelines in Judaism, in terms of such an important area of like raising the next generation of the Jewish people? Because if you punish your child or have that discussion when you're upset and angry, you're gonna go over the top and you're gonna say things that you regret. One of the things that I'm sure many people know about this, but maybe if you don't, Gmail
Mhm.
has something called undo. Do you know this?
Yes, yes.
So Gmail has undo. So I have it on my Gmail and I've had it for years. It's when somebody showed this to me, like this was a game changer for me. Gmail has it that when you write something and send it, something immediately pops up.
Yeah, you're
Do
like
you want to undo this?
yes,
You have a few seconds
yes.
to change your mind.
And I think you can set it to go for like a minute.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I write emails that I'm not sure about, what I'll do is I'll say I'm going to send it. Like when Shabbos is over and I'm sending emails to my relatives or friends in America, I time it.
Delay it.
I delay it so they're not getting until after Shabbat
Right.
is over there. But I also had done it recently for another thing. I'm not going to get into it because it's personal, but like something that's very
You
touching.
can tell me. I
No,
won't tell anybody.
and I didn't. I made sure I sent it for like a day and a half later, and I thought about. I canceled the email.
You canceled it.
I canceled the email. Yeah, but I want to go back to something you said about praising people for doing things. My son, this is I was blown away.
Wait, before we
I
go
know,
on, I
I
just
know.
want to make the point.
Yeah,
When you're admonishing somebody that you care about and love, there's no undo.
no, there is no undo.
There's no undo. So you can't to say again, you should not have to qualify with I was only joking or I didn't mean
Yeah.
it or I'm sorry, which is good to say I'm sorry. But just, when somebody blurts something out on the stand and the prosecuting lawyer says I object and the judge says sustained and turns to the jury and says to the jury will disregard what the witness just said.
Oh, I'm gonna forget that. Yeah, sure, no problem. I can forget that. Yeah.
So the lawyer on the other side is very happy and smug, right? Because even though they blurt out, even though the jury will disregard, it goes in. Though that's it. So you can't when we talk about respecting our partner, you can't just click undo. It's done.
My wife said it to me before we got married. She said, "You better be careful what comes out of your mouth because I'm sure if she didn't say that to me, there were times I would have said, I think we should consider divorce. I would have said that. I was like, I hate you. Things like that you say. And my wife said you should be careful what you say because once you say it, those words are out there, even though you might come to apologize later. I've never said those things.
Okay, so I want to share something very important. It's very good what you said. Your wife is very wise, but I want to share something very important that we learned from our rabbi. And I'm going to generalize right now. Generalize means there are exceptions.
I know.
There are exceptions. In general, the man can never say the D word, divorce. Ever, ever, ever. The woman can say the D word out of emotion, but the man should understand that when she says the D word, like, I think we should get divorced, I think we should get divorced, what she's usually saying is, how much do you want to be in this? And I want you to fight for me.
Psh,
When a man says the D word, he can, for the woman, it's over. When the man says the D word, like you can't take it back. Like but when the woman says the D word, please guys, remember, most of the time she's saying, how much do you want this? How much do you want me? Please fight for me.
that's really good. So, we talk about praising in public. Number one, the first way of the top 3 ways to respect your partner, the exact opposite is disrespecting them in public. That just kills a marriage, and obviously in private too. If you do that in public, that's just death. I mean, if a man said that to his wife in a public domain, that would just be obviously like she'd want to crawl under a rug.
I remember I mentioned Sarah Connor Radcliffe. I asked her because she's an expert in parenting. I go, what do you do when you're at the park with your kids and you see people parenting poorly?
I know.
What do you do? Because sometimes we talk about marriage,
Yeah.
you hear like husbands and wives talking to each other, or the wife says something, and like that this is like she just like stabbed her husband in front of everybody, or like cut him down. It's like, what do you do? What do you do? I go, do you just like clutch the park bench? Like, what
I
do you
don't
do?
know. I've seen
So
many.
she actually gave me a great hint.
Okay.
So I said, because I told her, I said, I was in a shopping line, okay, I'm checking out, and the woman behind me was speaking to her child in a way that was completely embarrassing him in front of everybody, like really, really disrespecting her child and talking in a way that was really such terrible parenting. And I'm sure she was upset. She had a
Yeah.
bad day, like, ah, ah, ah.
Yeah.
But this poor kid was dying in front of my eyes. Really, you know that it's in Judaism that embarrassing somebody is akin to killing them.
Yeah.
Because if you feel ashamed and embarrassed, you want to die.
Yeah.
You want to die. So it's very, very important to keep people's like to be sensitive to people's feelings and never to embarrass them. So I said, I'm standing in line. I'm listening to her parenting terribly. I didn't know what to do. I said, what do you do? So this is the hint she gave me, and I've used this. She says you should say to them, like, oh, I had a kid like this. Can I tell you, I somebody gave me some advice and I use it. I don't know if it'll work with for you, but this is what I did with my child. And you don't even have a kid like this.
Right. Of
Like
course.
use it, like make you can make it up. You're allowed to lie for peace to help, to help people. And I it's it was and what there's 3 times you're allowed to lie. We should do something.
We will. And the,
We should do another thing
yeah.
on lying. But so I made it up. I said I had a kid like this, and this is what I tried. I so one time I was at I was at some like I don't know like indoor playground fun thing, and I heard a guy after she had told me this. There was a guy, and he was just parenting so poorly to his daughter, like really like I wanted to kidnap her and bring her home and raise her myself. Not like I'm a perfect parent, believe me, my kids will tell you, but it was just so painful to watch. So I decided to use her advice.
What'd you say?
And I said to him, like, whatever, after like, the kid went to playground, I go, the parenting boy, it's not easy, huh? Like I was like, trying to engage him. And I said, like I had a kid like this once and it was really hard. It was just constant conflict. And somebody gave me some advice. I ended up giving him Sarah Connor Radcliffe's
Mm.
phone number.
That's so funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like 416-785-8046 is one of the few phone numbers I know by heart. Because and you make an appointment with her, like you could do it on the phone. And she's not sponsoring this, but I'm telling you, she's so amazing. She just gives really, really good practical advice. And I said, that here's a number of somebody who really helped me, and she has, who really helped me. My kids still would not be toilet trained without her, and to this day, even though they're married. So she was excellent. So I was able to say, oh, because you can't, you know, if somebody's harming somebody, somebody's doing something wrong, you can't just walk away. Like you really have to try to help them to course correct.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
how do you course correct your spouse? Definitely not in front of other people.
No.
And your children, not in front of other
So
people.
if you have to praise people, if you have to rebuke people, you got to do it in private. Always take them in private. There's been times I've been with dinner with my kids and someone's not doing something right. I've learned from my wife, thank God. I say, come in the other room with me. I go in the other room. I tell
Beautiful.
them, you're a good person, but what you're doing is wrong. Just let you
Yeah.
know. And I do it in private.
Yeah.
So they're not embarrassed. It's very important. Let's get to number 2. I just want to say one other
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
So I do want to say, because children are people too.
Yeah,
They're
they are.
short and they look like you, but you also not embarrass in front of these people. Like
Yeah.
people who are very careful, like their kids are running and they're in front of their guests, they'll be like, "Stop running! I told you to stop running." No, no, no.
Yeah.
What you did, and it takes thought. You
It
see,
does
you have
take
to
thought.
stop.
It's nuanced.
I'm
Take
going to
thought.
take you. And you should say, you shouldn't talk about all the other things they've done wrong. I've told you a million times. No, no. So the best way to do it, I was told, is to when you're giving people rebuke, when you're trying to help people, and your motivation, you have to check your motivation. Am I trying to put this person down? Am I trying to get back at them? When you're trying to help them to become a better person, just like if you're swinging the bat wrong, you're swinging the bat upside down. You want somebody to go, honey, like here, just turn it over, okay? You don't want. Oh, do you ever find out at the end of the day you had spinach between your teeth
Yeah.
for breakfast and nobody said anything to you? You want somebody, like I'll be in line and there's a woman and she's got her tag out from her dress or her.
You want someone to tell you.
I'm like, I say, like, is it okay if I just, tuck you in
Yeah.
here? Like I would want and they always go, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like if you had toilet paper on your shoe, like somebody, you actually want people to do it. We want people to tell us what we're doing wrong.
Oh,
You think you don't, but you do it because you want it so much you would pay for it. That's why we pay a decorator. Like we pay a fitness person. We pay a therapist. If you spent an hour with a therapist and at the end they go, I wouldn't change a thing. You're doing great. $500. Here's
Yeah, I know.
like what? What? No. So when people give it to you for free, you should thank them.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard.
it
It's
is.
hard.
It is.
But to do it in the proper way, if you do it in the proper way, the other person should say, thank you.
Okay. Let me give you one idea before we go to step 2. So my son, we live in a building that has 6, we're on the 5th floor. And I told we were going somewhere. I said, Shai, just, I'm gonna catch up to you in 5 minutes. So he took the elevator down to 0. And what he did? He sent the elevator back up to 5
For you?
for me.
Oh,
Because our
that's
building has many
nice.
people. And when I noticed that, I got the elevator's there. I'm like, Shai sent the elevator for me. And
Wow.
I completely like
I love
gave him
this.
so much. Shia, I go, no one thinks like that. I do. I always think it up I always send it back up for my family sometimes
Wow.
because there's a lot of people in the building I don't do because
Well,
people.
he probably saw you modeling. You modeled that for
Yeah,
him.
and so he sent the elevator up for me. I'm like, Shia,
Wow.
because he was like 11. I go, no one your age does that. I go, people, they don't think like that because you're thinking ahead of the game. Like,
Wow.
my father needs the elevator. I'm gonna send it up for him, so it's waiting for him when he gets there. I go, that is a person that is living beyond the norm.
That's so
It's
beautiful.
amazing.
I'll tell you what Sarah Hannah, like another thing to do you when you label it, you could say that was so considerate. You are such a considerate person. Now he's like, I'm a considerate person.
Yeah,
So if I'm a considerate person, you
I
could
do
just
consider
see it.
things.
So then I'm going to be like,
Consider everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah. No, we pray. My kids can clean the kitchen. By the way, even when like one of my sons makes a mess in the kitchen, and he just takes the dirty dishes and sticks them in the sink and puts water in them, I say, Liam, thank you so much. You made it so much easier for me to clean the dishes in the
wow.
morning. I really appreciate it. It doesn't, did he clean? No, and the counter's dirty, whatever. Well, it's still a mess. But I try to praise him for things that
Beautiful.
I can praise him for. And then they're going to more likely like to hear that praise as they go. So
So you see, we do this with our kids,
yeah,
but for some reason, when it comes to our partners, when it comes to our
it's
spouse,
harder, isn't it?
people like it's like throw it out the window. So instead of they've done a few things that bothered you, and they do the one positive thing, like with your kid, you're like zeroing in on that, which is excellent parenting. And you should, as somebody taught me, like look, even if it's a small thing,
It's a tiny thing.
build them, look to praise. Look how you put the chicken on the
Yeah,
platter
yeah,
so
yeah,
nice,
whatever it is.
or whatever it is,
Okay.
or to pick something.
Okay.
With our spouse, often it's, yeah, yeah, he did that or she did that, but what about oh, no,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, but all the time. You do
yeah,
this all the time. Like that was
yeah,
whatever. People, we're not going to get into that now. Number 2, believe in them. These are the top 3 ways in a way to respect your partner. So number 1 is praise them in public. Number 2, believe in them when they say they can do something. So you hear all the time, like, wife will say, my car's not running away. I'll go look at it. Like, no, no, send it to the guy. He can do it. Like, believe your husband, believe your wife when they say they can do something. Don't assume, even if you know they're going to do a bad job, you still have to believe that they can do it because you want to way to respect someone is for you to believe what they say is going to be true.
yeah.
And if they say they can do it, give them a chance, even though you know they're going to fail. You think they might fail. They'll do a good job. It doesn't matter. It's for your relation. This is about building your relationships up in life, and you have to believe people. And that if you tell them, believe in them. If you tell them, oh, you're going to do it wrong or it's going to be a mistake, you're tearing them out. You're tearing them down.
So that also applies very much to children. As an aside, my husband really learned this. He said, like, it really drove home, like, after years of parenting, it's not enough just to love your kids. You have to believe in them,
Yeah.
and they have to feel that.
Yeah.
Like, they believe, like, okay, so maybe I didn't pass, this test, or maybe I didn't get this job, but like that, if your parents believe in you, okay, it's like, and they're there for you. So that's the basis for everything, and you have to apply it to your partners. I think it's very beautiful.
Yeah, my wife wants to start cutting our hair, just save money at home and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
we bought the clippers and stuff. And I said, and she did one of my son's hair yesterday, and he's a teenager. Like if she makes a mistake, he's freaking out, right? It's horrible. And I said to her, I said, just go wash your hair, put some gel up. No one's going to notice. And I said to my wife this morning, I go, you should cut my hair today because she's talking about blending. She goes, I need to blend. I didn't blend it well. I'm like, you can blend me all you want. Practice on my hair. I don't care.
Uh-huh.
I go, I want you to do it. I think it's great you're doing it. I want you to become a better barber, hairstylist. And so I believe it, when they say they can do something, let them give it a chance, even though they can't do it. If they set the table poorly, let them do it. You can always fix things later. And obviously certain things like, if they're going to, try to fix a $1 million diamond ring or something, then maybe you should take it to a pro. But in general, if they're going to set the table and they don't do a good job, let them do it. You can fix things later. If they want to make a dish and you don't like it, let them make it. You can always add spices later. You have to believe in people, and they want to know that you believe in them, and that shows them respect.
Yeah.
So it's very important that when someone says they can do something, believe they can do it.
Nice.
Number 3, do not criticize them when they are helping. People like to help around the house sometimes. Don't criticize. It's very easy for people to criticize. Oh, you're doing that wrong. You're doing that wrong. And I think criticizing, as we know, tears people down,
Mhm,
and complimenting
mhm,
brings
mhm.
you into a better relationship. So if they want to do something, let them do it, even though you know it's wrong. But it's better for them to figure out on their own. And definitely do not say, "I told you so." That's, by the way, that's like dangerous language. I told you so. Do you like that? Do you like when people say, "I told you so"?
Nobody likes "I told you so." I hate when people say, like, "I told you a million times," or "I've always say this,"
Yeah,
and that's like it's very, it's not a good way to start a conversation.
yeah. Um, so I think these are really good three ways in order to really respect your partner. I think that
Can I add just one
you
thing?
got as much as you want.
Okay, but I'm not adding to number 4, but I wanna go back a little bit.
There was something you
We
mentioned yesterday. I mentioned which one you
number
never.
1.
I don't know.
What?
It might be on my paper. You mentioned something yesterday when we met about a fourth way to respect your partner. But go ahead. I'm listening.
I always say that, it's very, very, very important for a man that his wife respects him. And of course, like a woman, very important that a woman feels her husband respects her. But what's more important is that she feels that her husband loves her.
Yes.
Whereas a man, if he feels loved by you, but he doesn't feel respected, this is not good. So before you marry somebody, was one of the questions I ask people. It's like, is this the guy? Is this the guy? And she's dating him. I'll ask her and I'll look her in the eye, like, do you respect him? And if she hesitates and says, ah, I worry. Or if she says yes, but she looks away, she glances away. Because if you look away when you answer,
It means you're lying.
not always,
No.
but most of the time it means you're lying and
Yeah.
you don't even know you're glancing away.
No, you don't. You have no idea.
So you probe. I would probe to find out what it is. So you should not marry a guy that you don't respect. But once you're married, it's a done deal. As we said, sometimes you can forget because life happens, like
Yes.
why you married them. So treat him like a man you respect, and he will become a man that you respect. It's not just pointing out the good things, because that's building a person, they're feeling that you see them in your love. It's not just that. Treat him like a man you respect, and he will become a man that you respect. So, how do I do that? Everybody think about somebody now you tremendously respect. A great rabbi, a grandfather, a diplomat. Like, think
Yes.
about somebody you tremendously respect.
Yes.
Got it?
Got it.
Now they're coming over to your house. All right. Ding dong. Would you say, "Hey, oh, come in"? Would you just yell like, "Doors
No,
open"?
no, not a
What do you
chance.
do?
I'd go there and I'd greet them. I'd shake their hand. I'd show them in. Can I get you? First thing I said, can I get you a drink? I'd sit down with them. I would totally give them honor. Totally.
And when they're leaving, what would you do?
I'd walk them out of the house.
I was in somebody's house once, and their father came over, like, in the middle of the conversation, her father came. Like, he's elderly, and he came by. "Hey, dad. Hi, 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 hi. Hey, hey, hey." Okay.
Yeah.
And we're talking, talking, talking. Then her father, after about 30 minutes, I guess he was with the grandchildren, whatever, he goes, "Okay, I'm leaving. Bye, dad." I was shocked.
Yeah.
I said to her that in Jewish tradition, that first of all, when somebody elderly comes into the room, you're supposed to stand up, even if it's the plumber,
I know. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
You stand up because they've lived life and they have wisdom. What does it mean, elderly? Like, whatever, there's a difference of opinion, but for sure 70 and above. My husband just had his 70th birthday. He gets on the light rail here in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
People pop up to give him the seat.
Someone
They
sit down
really
for me.
it's not like he's wearing a sign,
I know.
70.
I know.
People jump up, and in the beginning, he was a little bit like, take it like,
Yeah.
halted, like,
Yeah.
"No, no, I'm not that. I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm good." But he realized that when children here in Jerusalem jump up, and sometimes the parent will, like, just, like, look, just glance and glance at my husband, she doesn't have to say a word. These kids jump up out of respect for elders
Yeah.
and make sure that my husband takes the seat. And now he realizes, he goes, "Now I take the seat." Not only because it's nice sometimes to have a seat, he's not insulted, and he really feels like it's good education. It's good for the lessons that they're trying to teach their kids. It would be wrong for him not to take the seat.
Yes.
So he'll take the seat. So when her all the more so, somebody elderly who's your parent, who gave you life. So even when your parent is 35 or 40 years old, your parent walks in the room, you're supposed to stand up. You're supposed so if you think about somebody you tremendously respect, so if your husband, so here's a little bit of a joke scenario, but imagine. I tell women, imagine that Oprah Winfrey, for whatever reason, has chosen you for, they're coming to your home for an in-home interview. And it's the day Oprah's coming. How does your house look?
Perfect.
Perfect. How do you look?
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Now you're on the phone.
Don't let my wife cut your hair. Kidding. I'm kidding. She's going to do a great. She's going to learn. She's going to learn to be a great job. On me. I'm happy to.
So imagine Oprah's coming to your house and you're waiting for Oprah and the camera crew and you're on the phone with your best girlfriend. Okay. Ding dong. Oprah's coming. Oprah's here. Okay. I'll call you back. I'll tell you everything later. Okay. Oprah, I'm so excited to meet you. What can I get you? This is the greatest deal. Regular day. Oprah's not coming. You're on the phone with your best girlfriend. Your husband walks in. Ladies, when your husband comes home, get off the phone. And he should hear you say, oh my gosh, my husband's home. I gotta go. What message are you sending to him?
I respect my husband.
You are more important than anybody else on the end of this line. And it's true. It also works with kids. Your kids come home, instead of like, oh, my kids are home, I gotta go. To the point where, and I think your wife might do this, because she's heard Big T.
I just want to say, this is the greatest piece of wisdom, and I've gotten so much wisdom from you. It's off the charts. This is one of the greatest pieces of wisdom I think that you teach. Okay,
so I have to say that as I tell women, sometimes you hear your husband drive up, or your husband, you hear the key in the lock. Grab your phone. Oh my gosh, my husband's home. I gotta go. Even when he knows that you're lying and you're faking it, he loves it.
It's true. My wife, because she doesn't talk on the phone, and she does it to me all the time. And I still, she, Sarah, I have to go. My husband just walked in. Click. Hi, honey. It makes me feel like $1 million. It really does.
I have had men say to me that made more of a difference in their marriage than all the thousands of dollars they spent on therapy.
Yep.
Okay. Something so simple. The message you're sending is you are more important than anybody else at the end of this line. And it's true. And unless it's an emergency.
Of course. Okay. There's been times
where I'll take
my husband with the doctor or something,
or something's going on, and my husband will go like, and one time my kids have seen this, growing up, to the point where my husband will come in and it is an emergency. He knows if I'm not getting off that there's something urgent going on, and they'll go, Ima, like, which means mother, Ima, Abba's home. Like you're, and because they know immediately. Now, the problem is when you teach this to your friends, it's hard to finish a conversation because their husband walks in, they're like, oh, my husband's home, I gotta go. Like, and it's good. It's good.
Yes. So these are the 3 ways in which to respect your partner. Number 1, praise them in public. Number 2, believe in them when they say they can do something. And number 3, do not criticize them when they're helping.
And number 4, treat them like a person you respect, and they will become a person that you respect.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Living in Clarity podcast. I'm Coach Ratner. This is Lori Plotnick, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching the Living in Clarity podcast. If you enjoyed our episode, please like, comment, or subscribe. We'll see you next time.